right, since it's 1 o'clock, I'm going to start. So first, hitting record. Okie dokie. All right, welcome everybody. It is October 6th, 2020. This is the Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals. I'm first going to go through some Webex functionalities for everybody. First, if you could please mute yourself while you are not testifying, that helps cut back on a lot of background noise. The way this works is when your case is called, if you are an appellant on the docket, I will unmute you and make you a panelist. And then if your video is on, we will also all be able to see you as well. If you are here in opposition to a case or in support of a case, there's a feature where you can raise your virtual hand. Depending on what version of Webex you have, if you look at the list, you'll see a little hand symbol that you could use, a little icon. If that doesn't work, you can also just use the chat feature and just message me and let me know you want to testify and for what case. I ask that you use the chat feature instead of the Q&A feature. The Q&A feature can be a little glitchy. Also, if you are a caller, you obviously won't be able to use the chat feature or raise your virtual hand. So after each case, I will go through each caller one at a time for I usually do about a head count of 5-6 seconds. I'll unmute you and you'll hear 2 beeps. If you want to testify, then go ahead and say so. If not, remain silent and I will move on to the next caller. If you have any issues with Webex or otherwise, you can go ahead and call the office. There is someone there who will take your call. The phone number for the BMZA office is 410-396-4301. You can also find my email address on the website, although I obviously can't check email during the hearing. And that is it for all the Webex parts.
Okay. Over to the general ground rules as we normally do. The board will vote on each case and make a decision at the end of the docket. Certainly you're free to listen in and hear all of that. And otherwise, in order to hear your result, you can call the BMZA office tomorrow morning after 9 a.m. The number is 410-396-4301. Again, 410-396-4301. In any event, you should receive your resolution in the mail within 30 days. But until then, we ask that you not do any work until your resolution is received. And, of course, don't do any work in Baltimore City without pulling the proper permit. We do have the one postponement on today's docket. That is case number 2020-119, 1000 Druid Hill Avenue, also known as 501 Dolphin Street. The appellant, for those who have an interest, is STV Inc., care of Addison Palmer, and that's to use portion of first floor, also known as 501 Dolphin Street. That's postponed. It's being rescheduled to the next hearing date, October 20th. And so it's off today, but in 2 weeks it will be back on. So 2020-119 is postponed. We also have 2 consent cases today on the docket. And these are cases for which the board has sufficient information to approve the request. Those cases are 2020-146, 3108 O'Donnell Street, and 2020-158, 2502 Druid Hill Avenue. So I'll go ahead and call those cases now. We'll address those.
Oh, sorry, James. Can you announce the withdrawals?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we do have. I didn't mark those clearly. We have 2 cases on the docket also that have been withdrawn. Those are 2020-154. The address is 536 through 538 South Fulton Avenue. The appellant is Page Center. And also case number 2020-155, 1814 through 1824 Eagle Street. Also the appellant, Page Center. Those cases have been withdrawn to be addressed perhaps another day. All right. Okay. Regroup back with the consent cases. I'll call the first consent case on the docket, case number 2020-146, 3108 O'Donnell Street. The appellant is Adam Carballo. This is a request to construct a 2-story rear addition with rooftop deck and widened rear garage. I'll hear any staff or planning reports, and then address Mr. Carballo.
Nothing from staff.
Okay, Martin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Do we have Mr. Caballo on the line?
I'm here.
How are you, sir? Mr. Caballo, is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time, sir?
No, sir.
Very well. The board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Oh, hold on. Let me check on the call-in users. So we have 2 call-in users today. If you are one of them, you're going to hear 2 beeps. If you are in opposition to this case, then let us know. Here's the first one.
Oh.
Okay, and then the next person. Okay, go ahead.
And that will dispose of case number 2020-146. Thanks again, Mr. Caballo. The next case on the consent docket, case number 2020-158, 2502 Druid Hill Avenue. Bashir Hijazi, the request is to use as 2 dwelling units. You don't hear any staff and/or planning reports.
Nothing from staff.
Planning Department has reviewed this application and has no objection to its approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Do you want to see if there are any callers before?
Yes, sorry about that. All right,
right.
so call-in users, again, you'll hear 2 beeps if you are here in support or opposition of 2020-158, 2502 Druid Hill Avenue. Go ahead and say so. If not, you may remain silent. Okay, that's the call-ins.
All right, Mr. Hijazi with us?
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. Is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time, sir?
No, sir. Thank you.
Well, the board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now we'll pick up the regular docket. Calling the next case, which is 2020-145, 1815 Madison Avenue. Mr. Carballo is the appellant, and this is a request to use 3 dwelling units. Uses 3 dwelling units. Do we have any staff or planning reports for this property?
We do. We received 1 letter opposition. It's from the Madison Park Improvement Association. It says, the Madison Park Improvement Association MPIA board met with our architectural review committee, and we recommend against this request. The ARC and the board met to consider the request after exchanging several messages with Ms. Bowen. The board is thankful for her cooperation. Generally, the MPIA encourages the following for homeowners: owner occupancy, conversion of subdivided rental units into single-family homes, engagement in the community, contacting MPIA for discussion of variance requests, adhering to CHAP and the MPIA ARC for exterior modifications, Madison Park Historic District, and consideration to on-street parking. MPIA discourages absentee owners and landlords, further splitting of single-family homes, non-participation of homeowners in the community, failure to contact MPIA before a variance hearing, failure to attain CHAP and ARC approval for exterior modifications, and additional cars contributing to street parking congestion. The homeowner has expressed intent to live within 1 unit, and the fact that she contacted MPIA at all and demonstrated respect for the architectural nature of the community by already seeking CHAP approval for forthcoming exterior work all weighs favorably. However, our adherence against the creation of more than 2 residential units on a property such as this and our goal of creating more single-family units outweighs the other factors. Additionally, this particular block is deeply affected by parking congestion, and this particular property currently has no off-street parking facilities. To summarize, we ultimately recommend against the request of the homeowner to rezone as a 3-unit dwelling.
Okay.
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is currently shown in city records as containing 2 dwelling units, which almost exactly matches the lot area required in the R7 zoning district for 2 dwelling units, which is 2,200 square feet. The lot has 2,176 square feet, so it's only 24 square feet shy of the correct amount, so to speak, according to the zoning code. However, the board is allowed to grant a variance, which would be approximately 21% if it chooses to grant that variance that's requested by the applicant. The property does have the ability to provide an additional parking space for the proposed third dwelling unit. And given the fact that this is an historic district, the property being in the Madison Park Historic District, the department recommends that approval of this application, if granted, be subject to the condition that all exterior changes, including additions, demolitions, alterations, and landscaping changes, are completed in accordance with an authorization to proceed issued by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Mr. Carballo, are you present?
I am present.
Okay, tell us about this project and whether or not you or anyone on behalf of the owner has had communications with the Madison Park group that authored this letter.
Yes, my client Larnice has communicated with the community and presented the project for their consideration. This project, this existing structure, is actually positioned as a 3-unit building. My client recently purchased the property in the last 6 months. With the understanding that it was a 3-unit. It wasn't until sort of further investigation that we realized that it had only ever received, it was only ever documented as a 2-unit. However, in my variance package, which I'd be happy to share share on this call, we have photographic evidence that there already are 3 existing kitchens in this building. There are 3 existing hot water heaters. There are 3 existing electric panels. There are 3 existing electric meters. And there's actually also 3 existing doorbells on the front of the house. It's our belief that this property had been enjoyed as a 3-unit for quite some time, perhaps as many as several decades. However, for whatever reason, it was never recorded as such with the city. And, we were really just trying to, she doesn't have any plans for major renovation or alteration. She just wants to continue using the property as it has been for quite some time. Mr. French mentioned that if we were able to provide an additional off-street parking space, we do have access off of Morris Street, which is the alley street that runs parallel to Madison Avenue, and we could easily provide one off-street parking space off of Morris Street, and I believe my client would be happy to provide a parking pad if that would assist in decision making. There are a number of garages, parking pads and such that are off of Morris Street, so it would be out of character to provide a single parking pad to the rear of the property, which I don't think that she would have any issues doing.
So do you believe your client would agree to approval condition upon the creation of that additional parking pad?
I don't see why that would be an issue.
Okay.
Hey, Adam, as I'm looking to your documents, I only see 2 electric meters. I only see 2 hot water heaters.
There's a third hot water heater may be just out of frame, but there are 3 hot water heaters there. You can see it. It's way in the back. If you zoom in, there's.
I'm looking at a paper copy. I can't zoom anywhere.
Okay. I'd be happy to share my screen if I'm able to do so.
Well, no, I'll take your word for it if what you say is there. How about the electrical meters, though?
There are 3. There's 3 meters, and in fact, if you look at the meter, there are 4 feeders coming off that, which indicates 3 meters and 1 public panel meter. The actual meter itself, the blank plate, it looks like it was moved off, but there are 4 feeders going to that electric panel.
But only 2 meters.
Well, the one she has a vacant apartment right now, so the meter was taken out. But there's there's the capacity for that third meter to be returned back. So the infrastructure is there, but when that last tenant moved out, they canceled the service. This occurred after she before she purchased the property.
But when did she purchase the property?
I believe it was about 6 months ago. There's also laundry facilities for 3. The uppermost unit, it's just a hookup. You can see it in my images where you can see the duct and the hookup for the washer and dryer. But there also are 2 other sets of washer and dryer for the other 2 units.
Looks like the chairman's frozen out right now.
Oh, can you hear me though?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, these photos are the condition as they presently exist.
That is correct.
Okay. Any questions further questions from the board?
No.
I guess we have some calls.
No questions.
Sorry, I forgot I was muted. We do have one person who'd written ahead of time saying that she wanted to testify in opposition. That's Stephanie Ray. I'm unmuting you now, Ms. Ray.
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to echo the board's statement. We are worried that because of the permanence of this appeal, that after Larney's may vacate this, that it will continue to be a 3-unit dwelling, which is in opposition to our single-family use preference in the neighborhood. The parking congestion is also a major concern, as there are 2 or 3 churches in the area, and we are concerned about the
Hello?
sorry, I think I cut out for a second. We are concerned about the congestion, especially if there are 3 units in there. That's not necessarily just 3 cars. It could be 6 cars for that. So even with an offsite pad or parking spot, that could not necessarily mediate that issue.
Are you familiar with this particular property that's at issue, ma'am?
I'm sorry?
You live in the area, correct?
Yes, I'm on the 1400 block of Madison Avenue and the communications chair for MPIA.
Do you have any other familiarity, particularly with this property, and who may have lived there prior to the current owner purchasing it 6 months ago?
Not necessarily offhand, but I can inquire about that.
No, I just wanted to know what your understanding was of how many people lived there, and it being used as 3 units with the 3 doorbells and so on and so forth.
Yes, no, I don't have that information.
Thank you. Any other questions or calls at this point?
No.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes. Sorry for everybody. This is Ms. Bowen, and she's the property owner.
Okay.
Hi, yes. I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. I purchased the property in August. And as Mr. Carvalho explained, that the unit was the house was presented as a 3-unit, and that was my understanding upon purchasing the property. Neither the seller's agent, my realtor, no one sort of with like fiduciary, the appraiser, signified to me that there was an issue with the zoning. It was only that an electrician mentioned that there could be a problem, and that I took it upon myself to sort of do the due diligence into the situation. And I submitted an application and approached MPIA prior to this hearing today. I wanted to mention that, I have been waiting 2 months for this hearing. And in that time, I applied for CHAP and presented them with my renovation plans, which, while are not to alter anything structural to the property, they are substantial sort of updates, cosmetic, and they're in the amount of $80,000, and that's wrapped into my mortgage. So I just wanted to, and then through the process of engaging with CHAP, I've had to alter my renovation plans according with their design guidelines, which I'm happy to do because I respect the integrity of the home in the historic district it's located in, which was a big draw. But I just wanted to say that, my renovation plans have already been delayed 2 months. And I know MPIA had asked that I reconfigure the unit to be 2 units. Reconfigure the property to be 2 units. And that would cause really extreme hardship financially. As I mentioned, I have plans. I have a contractor. It's approved by my lender for an $80,000 renovation. And that's not including anything structural. Those are just like needed updates to the property. So to reconfigure it and to come up with those plans would cause further delays and economic hardship. So I think that just about covers it. Thank you.
Are you willing to-
Do you plan to live in the property?
Yes, I plan to live in the top unit. I'm an owner occupant. I will be an owner occupant.
Okay.
do you I'm sorry, just listening to you, Bill, I lost my train of thought as to what that question is going to be. That was one of
On the parking pad.
Oh, the parking pad. I mentioned to MPIA that there was off-street parking space available and that I was happy to create an extra space in the back to help alleviate potential congestion. So that's not a problem.
Very well. All right, I have no further questions. If anyone else.
I have just one. How many total parking spaces would be off-street parking spaces?
Adam, maybe you would be better equipped to speak as architect. I think there's
Ooh, that was really well.
Mr. Carvalho, you're unmuted.
Well, the property has a width of 17 feet, measures 17 feet by 128 feet. 17 feet is, I could provide 2 parking spaces that are 8.5 feet wide in the back, which is a little tight. But we could, I believe the minimum size is 9 by 19 feet, if I'm not mistaken. So we're very close to being able to provide 2 legal spaces in the back at 8.5 feet wide.
And I will say for the board, and then I'll have Martin talk about the size of parking spaces. This was listed, currently zoned for 2 units. So under 16203, the parking requirement is when you add a dwelling unit, you add 1 space. So for variance reasons, we would only be needing a variance for 1 space. So if they're providing that request for a variance goes away. But Martin can talk about the number of spaces per size.
Actually, 2 things. Adam's already hit the key point, which is the lot is not 18 feet wide, so it can't provide 2 parking spaces meeting zoning code requirements for a proper parking space. It certainly has the access to the parking space, but it does not have the width to provide 2 parking spaces side by side on this lot. The other issue with insisting on creating more parking spaces in an historic district is that also has to go back through CHAP for approval, because that is a change to the exterior of the property. It's actually on the outside of the building, but it is a change, and CHAP would have to give it its approval. So in general terms, in any historic district, we tend to encourage granting of parking variances in order to help protect the historic character and integrity of that particular historic district.
Thank you, Mr. French. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Carvalho? Anything else from you at this time?
I don't have anything further to add.
All right. If there are no further questions from the board, we'll take this up at the end of the document. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, call the next case on the docket, 2020-147, 1504 Madison Avenue. Felon is Rick Daniels. This is a request to use the premises as 3 dwelling units. Staff and/or planning report.
There is one staff report. Give me 1 second to find the applicant on the list. I don't see him. Rick Daniels. He might be one of the callers. So I'm going to unmute the 2 callers. You'll hear 2 beeps. If you're the applicant for this appeal, go ahead and speak.
This is Claude Wolf for the Housing Authority of Baltimore City.
Okay, thank you.
This is Sheena with the Office of Councilman Leon Pinkett.
Okay.
Who is
All right,
that?
so I don't.
Councilman Pinkett's office.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, I don't see the applicant on here then. Let's see if I can find the property owner. Oh, sorry. Sorry, go ahead. I forgot. This case is actually the Housing Authority of Baltimore City is the property owner for this case. So that explains that. So backtracking slightly, we do have another letter in opposition. It's from the same association as the last case, so a lot of it's very similar. And we have her on the line to testify, so I'm just going to summarize the letter. It says the MPIA strongly recommends against the request, again, because they encourage owner occupancy and reverting subdivided rental units into single-family units, engagement with the community, discussing variance requests of the association, and adhering to CHAP, and considering on-street parking, and also discourage absentee owners and landlords, further splitting of single-family homes, non-participation of homeowners in the community, failure to contact the association before a hearing, failure to comply with CHAP, and adding additional cars. They write, in the past, absentee landlords and multi-unit rental landlords have allowed their properties to go into disarray and have not solicited appropriate MPIA or CHAP approval for variances or extreme exterior changes, and have not been active or committed to the neighborhood. In this case, the homeowner's failure to seek the support of MPIA means the community lacks the information to determine which, if any, of our concerns the homeowner may be able to address, including whether the property currently had any off-street parking.
So the homeowner is the housing authority.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess we'll find out who Mr. Daniels is soon.
I believe he's representing housing on this one.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Daniels, I believe, is part of the staff of either the Housing Authority of Baltimore City itself or one of its affiliates known as HABCO.
Gotcha.
Mr. Wolf, I believe, is also with the Housing Authority in some way.
All right.
Planning Department reviewed this application. This particular property is in the Upton's Marble Hill Historic District, which is another CHAP district in which local historic district rules apply. This property, however, is 22 feet wide, so it can provide 2 parking spaces meeting zoning code standards in the rear of the property. This property obviously was at one time privately owned. It passed into housing authority hands probably around 1972 and was used for a time as apartments, public housing apartments, most likely. The applicant basically is attempting to regain use of the property as apartments. And in this situation, a lot area variance of approximately 4% would be required to allow 3 dwelling units on this site. Given that it is in an historic district, the Department of Planning recommends approval of the application be subject to the condition that all exterior changes, including additions, demolitions, and alterations, are completed in accordance with an authorization to proceed issued by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. Thank you.
And Mr.
So the
Franklin,
housing
I'm sorry.
department wants to continue ownership?
Current owner is the Housing Authority of Baltimore City, and I believe Mr. Daniels filed this application possibly as an employee of the Housing Authority or as an employee of one of its affiliates. And Therefore, so far as we know, yes, the housing authority intends to continue to own the property. But you can ask Mr. Wolf that question, and maybe he can answer it.
Thank you.
Okay, who do we have?
Mr. Wolf, Claude Wolf, can I speak?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Oh, so we had we want to it's been continuously occupied for years, at least one of the 3 units. It's configured for 3 apartments, got 3 furnaces, 3 kitchens, 3 HVAC units in the back. And we had simply gone in to refurbish the upper 2 units. Having pulled a permit, it came to our attention that it was actually 3 family dwelling unit with zone for 2. So we're trying to clear up that condition at the same time. We can provide off-street parking in the back with a bit of grading, and there's the properties to the left and to the right sort of provide parking in the same fashion. We're not doing anything to the exterior other than painting and painting. And that's all I know. I am the director for the Construction Services Division of the Housing Authority. And as I said, the whole plan was to get the zoning to match how it was configured. I don't have any pictures.
Okay.
So you're saying you want the zoning changed?
I wanted to get a permit, and they said it wasn't zoned for 3 apartments. Yet it sits there in our inventory as 3 apartments. So,
Mr. Wolf, to your knowledge, is it currently occupied by 3?
one of the 3 units is occupied now. Our goal was to get the other 2 units reoccupied, which caused us to decide to put them on a list to be renovated. Not change the configuration of the property, just, refurbish the units and get them occupied again.
Okay.
If this clears it up at all and addresses your question, Bill, it's in the zoning records, it was listed as 2. So it is multifamily, but it was listed as 2 instead of 3 for some reason.
Correct. And in between 1962 and 1968, there were records in housing inspections for being a 5-family dwelling unit. In 72, it was a 3-family dwelling unit. In 75, we, the housing authority, pulled permits on it as a 2-family dwelling unit with a daycare unit on the first floor. So, and that's the history we found in the records and permits.
Okay.
We have someone from the association testify in opposition, unless the board has more questions for the applicant.
No, we can hear them.
I don't have any questions.
All right, Ms. Ray, you are unmuted.
Thank you. So to echo the MPIA concerns, we are concerned with a high volume of apartments on the 1400 and 1500 blocks of Madison Avenue. There's also a large redevelopment planned for around 200 units across the street from 1504. And the exterior was recently painted yellow, which we were concerned did not fall into any CHAP guidelines. So again, to reiterate, the MPIA does not approve the rezoning of 1504.
And I asked the same question I did previously. Are you familiar with the prior use of this property as a 3 dwelling unit, maybe up to 5 dwelling units in the past?
No, not at all.
Okay. Anything else from any other callers or Any questions of this caller?
So do I understand that the yellow that was used for the exterior doesn't meet CHAP guidelines? Martin?
Whether it meets CHAP guidelines or not, I would not know. That would be up to the historic preservation planner to determine. The key thing is, whatever the color, did they actually obtain an authorization to proceed from CHAP in the first place before doing that? Again, I have no knowledge of whether they applied for or received an authorization to proceed from CHAP.
Can we ask that gentleman
Uh,
from the Housing Authority?
we put a roof, we re-roofed the house so far, waiting for the zoning issue to clear up. We didn't, Construction Services Division, HABCO, had this painting occurred a number of years ago. If it wasn't it wasn't an action that we took in concert with the work we were wanting to do in the house.
It's 1504, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
would it have been, if it were painted yellow, would it have been painted before June 2019?
No, it was painted this year. We saw it.
Oh, okay. Because there are no yellow houses as of June 2019 on that lot.
So the Housing Authority did not go before CHAP. Is that what I'm to understand?
That's our understanding.
How
Well,
about
we
the
can't,
housing guy?
we're not at this moment able to conclude that, Bill.
Well,
We
certainly
just
the guy
don't know
from
whether they got
be able
an
to.
authorization to proceed or not. I specifically, representing the planning department, don't know that.
Well, the guy from the Housing Authority certainly should.
The Construction Services Division of the Housing Authority doesn't necessarily know that. I'll check with my housing operations folks who do the maintenance on the property. But we did not paint it as part of our work at this point.
Oh, jeez.
I need to
Also,
look into that.
I can also add that for all CHAP cases, the resolution will specifically say they need a official completed authorization to proceed from CHAP to get the permit. I don't know if CHAP would make them change it back. That I don't know, but.
Well, it's kind of troublesome to me that the person representing Housing Authority doesn't know about any applications to CHAP or whatever.
Do we have someone else from?
I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but it does trouble me.
Do we have Levu? Do we have someone? Go ahead, Mr. Wolf. I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off if you want to speak.
All right. We are pulling a permit, which caused this whole event, which caused us to determine that the zoning was incorrect. So our permits.
The zoning's not incorrect. The zoning is what it is.
The zoning is incorrect from the way the building is. It is not incorrect. That's a true statement. I'm just a builder, a construction person. It's configured as three sinks, three of everything in it. It looks to be sitting as a 3-family dwelling unit. That's what I mean by saying the zoning is incorrect. Zoning doesn't match what it's configured. So we were just trying to fix that.
So has the Housing Authority met with the Community Association?
No.
Not that I'm aware of.
Shouldn't that be standard practice with the Housing Authority?
Don't know that. Nope. I don't
Madison
know.
Park would appreciate that.
Excuse me?
Madison Park would appreciate that.
I would think that the Housing Authority is a matter of course. That would be like the first thing to check off, meeting with the Community Association.
I'll pass that along.
Did we have someone else from the housing? Someone else, either from Councilman Pinkett's office or from housing, also on this call? You're muted. You're muted, Levu. You're muted.
Sorry. Let me check with the rep from Councilman Pinkett's office to see which case they're here for. Hold on. Hello?
Hi, yes. I'm here for I think the next one that's coming up.
Okay.
Give me a second. The Druid Hill locations, I'm mostly just sitting in.
Okay.
We haven't received anything in relation to testifying or opposing.
Okay. Thank you.
The Druid Hill property is in the Glen Falls property.
Okay. Yeah, that one's the next
Thank
case.
Okay.
All right.
So no more callers on this call?
Nope, no more callers.
All right. So if I understand what you said previously, Mr. French, in order for 2 parking spaces to be added to this particular spot, that would also have to go through approval?
Yeah, if there's no parking, paved parking area already in the rear of this property, then to create that is an exterior alteration which requires CHAP approval, along with whatever else they might do to the actual walls of the building itself.
Okay.
I can tell you, I can't vote yes on this until they go to the community association and go to CHAP. And it's really troublesome to me that the housing authority doesn't know that or send someone that does know that.
Great. Is there anything else from the applicant at this time? I guess the applicant again is represented by Mr. Wolf.
I have no, I'll take the information back to my superiors and we'll reach out and,
Does that say you don't want us to make a decision today?
excuse me?
I said, are you saying you don't want us to make a decision today until you take it back to your fellow housing authority people?
Yes. I'll take it back to my fellow housing authority people and then we'll continue moving forward and they can decide what to do. Yes, that's what I'll do.
All right. So effectively on the docket, is this a request for postponement being made?
Yes, please.
Very well. Moving on to the next case in the docket, 2020-148, 2452 Druid Hill Avenue. Pedro Ramirez. This is a request to use the first floor as a clothing store / office. For a staff and/or planning reports for this property.
Nothing from staff.
All right. The planning department has reviewed this application, noted that this property is in an R8 zoning district in which neighborhood commercial establishments are permitted in certain buildings. This particular building was last authorized for use as a multifamily dwelling and as a retail goods establishment with no alcoholic beverage sales. The clothing store proposed in here is basically a continuation of that particular larger category, retail goods establishment with no alcoholic beverage sales. The proposed office use is another use that is permitted under neighborhood commercial establishment. And therefore, planning also wishes to note that the proposed use would reactivate an empty storefront, and it could provide an important outlet locally for clothing in an area in which a large proportion of the residents do not have access to automobiles. The community believes, however, that a new hearing should be required if the form of retail goods establishment becomes subject to change in the future. They are supportive to a certain extent of a clothing store and office. The department therefore has no objection to approval of this application, subject to conditions that might make it a positive contribution to the community, as this is a conditional use. Thank you.
Okay, is Mr. Ramirez on?
We have a representative for him, Mr. Meister.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Go ahead. Tell us about this project, and in particular, how what kind of clothing store, the office, hours, all those issues.
Okay, we would like to rebuild a store, a clothing store and an office. And the basic time of working from like 8 to 5 p.m., 8 morning to 5 p.m. I guess that just that. And the clothes that we are going to sell will be boots, pants, shirts, t-shirts, and stuff like that.
So you said 8 to 5 p.m.?
Yeah,
How many
8
days a week?
a.m. to 5 p.m.
How many days a week?
From Monday to Friday.
And closed on the weekends?
No, we are going to work just from Monday to Friday, and the main sales are going to be by online.
Main sales are going to be online. Will the store be open for foot traffic during those hours?
Could you repeat, please?
I said, will the store be open for foot traffic, pedestrian traffic, during the hours that you just stated? People can walk in off the street and come shop on location.
Yes, that's right.
And what will the office be used for?
Just to consult the deliveries. Maybe some clients that need the delivery at the store, we could support that.
Okay. Any additional questions from the board?
No.
No.
The only calling user left is the representative from Councilman Pinkett's office. I just want to confirm they don't want to testify. You're unmuted.
Yes. Again, we haven't received any opposition or support from the community for the property. So again, I'm just here to see what happens in the event that we are contacted.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything the applicant would like to add? I'm sorry. There are no other callers associated with this? Okay.
No other callers.
Okay. Anything else from you, Mr. Meister?
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
Okay. We'll take this up at the end of the docket. Moving on to the next case on the docket, case number 2020-149, 5922 Cross Country Boulevard. Judith Levitin. This is a request to use portions of single-family dwelling for a 30-child daycare center. Plan for any staff and/or planning reports.
There's no letters from staff other than a note, as I said in the general meeting, that the board heard this in 2019 for 20 children, and then per, I believe, a letter from the fire department, it was approved for 17.
Okay, so we have an approval.
Planning Department.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. French.
Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted the facts just mentioned to you. And basically, the position of the department is it recommends that any approval be subject to the condition that the applicant again contact the Parking Authority of Baltimore City concerning the adequacy of the passenger loading zone in front of the premises if there is an increase in children approved for this applicant. Thank you.
Okay.
Let me see. Sorry. And Ms. Levitin is unmuted.
Hello.
Ms.
Can you hear
Levitin, go
me?
ahead. Yes, we can.
Hi. I appeared before you last year at the beginning of our licensed daycare. We opened in the middle of COVID-19 as an emergency site for daycare children of emergency personnel, doctors, policemen, firemen, nurses. We had an abounding response from our community, and there is currently a great need to expand, as there are very limited licensed daycares for young children under the age of 3, which is our primary market. I get a call every single day to have more infants, and according to the Office of Childcare, we should be allowed more space. Right now, the only thing stopping us would be fire after this hearing. But the main idea would be to able to add an additional classroom so that we can hopefully have more children. Our community, unfortunately, has had an uptick in COVID-19, and a lot of schools, community schools, are now closed, forcing people to not be able to go to work. Of course, many people are able to work from home, but our clientele, doctors, policemen, firemen, obviously cannot work from home and need to go to work and are searching for licensed daycare. And with your permission, I would like to expand to our full capacity on site in each classroom and possibly open another classroom to that 30 capacity in order to serve the community greater.
Do you have sufficient staff to accommodate the additional number of students or
Yeah,
clients
as
you
of now, we
anticipate?
have full capacity with me out of the classroom. To start off, I will be in the next classroom, in the new classroom, and I have other staff members which are willing to come aboard.
Okay.
When it does come to the parking, we are blessed that we have an apartment.
Uh-oh.
Oh, sorry.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Did you start that over? You said you're blessed that you have an apartment.
There are apartment buildings as the next property. So we are between my house and the apartment buildings is a parking lot, which is empty for most of the day, and hence the parents have been allowed just to do a quick drop off there, and it hasn't affected traffic in any way.
Well, do you have an agreement with the parking lot owner to allow that?
We do not. They have not complained. They do know about us. They saw the hearing sign. Besides for that, we did put in, it was voluntary. The parking department came out after our last visit, and the officer said that it was voluntary if we should add the parking drop-off area on the street side, and just in order to curb any traffic flow or anything similar, we opted to go forward with the parking drop-off zone, which we currently do have.
So there would be no change to the drop-off zone with the addition of the new larger number of students?
Correct. Unless needed by you guys, by the parking authority.
Okay, have you contacted the parking authority to see what additional requirements would be needed?
No, last time I put in an application, they contacted me, so I assumed if they didn't contact me, there wouldn't be a problem. Especially last time, they didn't say it was mandatory. They said it was voluntary to put in the parking zone, and hence that we went beyond what was voluntary. I assumed that it would be okay, but I can contact them if needed.
Well, I think it's needed. I think we need to know that.
Sure.
As to what the requirements are for the parking. Now, you've indicated the physical space is more than adequate to handle the additional number.
Correct. Yes.
I do have a question regarding, given that we are in the midst of COVID, and I frankly am unfamiliar with how daycare facilities are operating to accommodate, I guess, the safety needed in the age of COVID. So how is it set up and designed, and what will you do additionally with the additional clients that you anticipate?
What we did do is we took out our wall air conditioning unit in one of the classrooms. We upgraded that to a high voltage air conditioning unit, and we closed the vent in that classroom. So there is absolutely no airflow in between the two classrooms that we have now. We also upgraded our front drop-off area to be fully enclosed, that when every child is dropped off, we do a temperature reading and a visual inspection. If they're unwell, we ask the parent screening questions as to exposure and any symptoms they have been in contact with. In order to facilitate this in the winter or on a rainy day, that no child should enter the building before screening, we have put up a fully enclosed area, which is still outdoors but covered, that every child can undergo the screening before entering the building. And for each individual classroom, we do have a separate entryway so that the classrooms can be totally separate in any way, every way and form, that they do not cross-contaminate each other. We have also installed a sink in the outdoor area so that children can wash hands in between going indoors and outdoors, and also that children can wash hands more regularly. We've installed a lot of outdoor equipment so that the children are outdoors more than indoors. And we try to keep them outdoors for around an hour a day or more, if possible, if weather permitting, just so that we can minimize the amount of time that they're in the classroom. Every classroom has windows, so that there should be fresh airflow, and the staff obviously wear masks.
Okay. Thank you for that information. Do we have any questions from the board?
Yeah, Ms. Leviton, you're aware that the fire department granted you a capacity of 17, right?
Yes, that was based on that our original application with the Office of Childcare was actually 16, and then the fire department allowed us to go up to 17. That was our original application. If you go back, I don't know if you have it on file, the original application we have for zoning actually requested 16. And then at my last hearing, the board, when I shared with them my viewpoints on the importance of valuable, qualified early childhood education and the quality of care that we try to give each child here. I have 2 master's degrees in education. All my staff are continuously provided with training and courses, as I deeply value early childhood and how much impact that can have on children being successful in later periods of life. When I shared this viewpoint with the board last time, they asked what my plans were, and I said my plans were to increase from 16 to 20 and hopefully further. And based on that, they actually amended my original application at the hearing to permit me to have 20 children if needed. But since my application with the Office of Childcare only stated 16, Office of Childcare allowed me to have 16. And then last year, we asked if, just because one of our teachers was having a baby, and she wanted to stay with us, as she was committed with the children, and we wanted to have continuity of care for the other children which have known this teacher for a while. The fire department came, did an additional inspection. They said that fire capacity wise, there's no problem to have an additional child. And within the zoning hearing last time that we allowed a capacity up to 20, they amended our permit to go from 16 till 17.
Why do you think the fire department would grant you a capacity of 30 now?
First of all, because they are restricted by the Office of Childcare. It's kind of a little bit of a circle. So since our application with the Office of Childcare only originally stated 16, they were bound to only allow us 16. Then our capacity with Office of Childcare changed to 17. They were bound to 17. Fire-wise, we've done everything possible we can in every classroom. We've installed exit stations. We've installed private fire monitoring. We spent thousands of dollars installing an egress window in the basement, in the lower classrooms for fire reasons. I don't see a reason why there are any problems with the fire department allowing us more, as long as this has begun with the application now with the Office of Childcare to allow us with 30. So the next stage would be this hearing, which would allow us hopefully to 30, and then the fire department to come back and do another evaluation of children. One of our previous fire officers did mention there may be a small chance that he may ask us to put in a water
Sprinkler system?
And we have no problem doing that. But the previous fire marshal has shared that since each of our classrooms exit to outdoors immediately, she may overlook that. So when she comes for her next inspection, she'll be able to give us more guidance if she expects that or not.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this earlier. We do have a letter in the file, it's probably in your packets, from the Maryland State Department of Education noting that they have applied to increase from 17 to 30.
Okay, yeah, I do see that in the packet, July 30, 2020.
Levu, I had a question though. On the certificate of occupancy, it says that we approved, or the board approved up to 20 children. It says per BMZA 2019-70, approved with condition dated April 9th, 2019. What were the conditions?
So the condition was to contact the parking authority about a drop-off zone.
Okay. Sorry if I missed that.
No, that's fine.
Okay, and you've agreed, as we discussed, to contact parking authority around with whatever requirements are necessary going forward.
Yes, with pleasure. I do have the direct contact number of the officer in charge of our area, and I can contact him as soon as the end of this hearing.
Okay. Great. Is there anybody on the line weighing in on this?
So there's no more call-in users. And then, of course, anyone who's in opposition or wants to testify can raise their virtual hand. But currently, I see no hands raised.
Good. Any more questions from the board?
Yeah, I'm good.
No more questions.
All right, Ms. Levitin, is there anything else you'd like to add at this time?
No, you guys have truly been amazing, and it has been a privilege to be able to serve our emergency personnel. I do hope that there will be more licensed daycares in our area, and if there's any process that anyone listening would like to contact me to be able to be licensed, I am able and willing to help support anyone who would like to go from unlicensed to licensed.
Very well, thank you.
Good luck
for your presentation.
Thank you.
Sorry if you hear dogs barking in the back. It's just, it is what it is. We'll move on to the next matter on the docket, which is now case number 2020-156, 1637, Gwynns Falls Parkway, Muddy Dolphin. There's a request to use the premises as 3 dwelling units. And I'll hear any staff or planning reports.
Nothing from staff.
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this particular site is zoned R7. It was previously zoned R8 at the time that the property was previously approved for 3 dwelling units by the board back in 2008 and again in 2009. But the department wishes to note that the downzoning from R8 to R7 was effective June 5th of 2017 and represented in the context of the Parkview Woodbrook community where this property is located, part of an effort to reduce residential density slightly without changing the nature of residential uses allowed there by the zoning code, in this case specifically multifamily dwellings. This particular property now requires 1,100 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit. For 3 dwelling units, that would require 2,750 square feet of lot area. The lot only encloses approximately 1,800 square feet and would require a variance of 32% of lot area in order to allow the 3 units proposed by the applicant. The department considers this variance amount large in relation to the amount required by the zoning code and notes that if the property was being approved now for 2 dwelling units as a type of a conversion, a variance of 18% would be required for approval of 2 dwelling units. The department is therefore recommending disapproval of this application unless the applicant demonstrates the use of this property as 2 dwelling units would not be feasible. The department has no objection to approval of use as a multifamily dwelling containing 2 dwelling units, which would be more consistent with the regulations of the R7 zoning district in which this property is now located. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Dolphin, we have you here. Can you tell us about your project and why it is that you're seeking 3 units, as opposed to it looks like would be more in line with the availability of the space. It's 2 units.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. So the property actually was approved for, I believe, 4 units. Hold on, let me just pull up my notes. Sorry. It was approved for 4 units a few years ago. The owner just didn't obtain the use of occupancy permit. So the property is actually already built out for 4 units. There's 1 unit in the basement, but we understood that, with the zoning, the new zoning code, which was changed a few years ago, we would have a challenge to get the zoning to that level. To get the 4 units. So we went in with 3 being done with the basement unit. Right now the property's boarded up, and it's a nuisance to the neighborhood. There's several other properties on the block. We're trying to, bring this block back alive. I don't believe that a 3rd unit in that location is going to really affect the density when I would say, a majority of the neighborhood is boarded up. So we're actually trying to bring residents in than take residents out. So I understand this was included in the zoning. This block was included in the R7 when the zoning code was changed. But the reality is that the property is big enough. It's already built out for 4 apartments. They're 1-bedroom apartments. We plan on renting them to seniors because it is close to our bus line. That's pretty much it. It sucks that the old prior owner didn't get the use of occupancy in time, and it reverted back to a to the vacant dwelling. But I should have provided photos to you guys, but you could see that when we purchased the property, it was pretty much the kitchens and everything were there. We're literally just going in there, swapping out some heating systems, doing some paint, and going to obtain the use of occupancy permit. And we really request to have at least 3 units to make the project feasible, because the price that we paid for the property, for the amount of money it's going to cost to do the work, it's not going to really be feasible to have 2 units there. And we would have to start doing structural changes, which, can cost a significant amount going back to permitting, etc.
Okay.
If the board doesn't mind, I actually have a question. So it's true. So in 2009, there was a board decision to be 3 DU and an efficiency. It's currently in the zoning records as 3 dwelling units, but it looks like there's been some issues with actually getting those permits. So is it currently set up as 3 or 4?
So it's 3 plus the efficiency in the basement.
Okay.
And we're just gonna, be done with the efficiency and just use that as, just basement space, and put a laundry system down there because, there's not one in the area, laundromat. So that's our plan.
All right, Levo, you said it's currently in the zoning records as 3 dwelling units?
It is, but there is, as Martin noted, so it's currently in there, but because of the vacant house notices and issues with permitting, they do need a lot area variance. As Martin had said, they have enough they barely have enough for 2 dwelling units. So it's a kind of big lot area variance, which is part of why it's before us.
Mr. Dolphin, you mentioned that this is being rented to use for seniors?
Correct, because it's close by to the bus lines. So we plan on putting, getting people that, use public transportation. That's the tenant base that we're targeting.
So you expect the seniors to use the steps, the stairway?
Yeah, the reality is that, in Baltimore, you have a lot of people that they're just looking for, a nice renovated place. Of course, we can't target seniors that, do have issues with, that need to use like the wheelchair accessible and that kind of thing. But in terms of, getting people that just, want their own space, a nice, without having a family and kids, that's who we're targeting. And generally, that's going to be an older individual.
Who is Dale LLC and how many properties are owned in the area?
That's our LLC, and in the immediate area, we have nothing right there on Gwynn Falls and up in Trelly, but we have on further down in Allendale, going west towards the county over there, and then we have stuff in Reservoir Hill, not under this LLC, and we've done the same. We went through the same process, and we've never seen the issue with. I understand the lot area, but if it was totally abandoned and vacant, we would probably do a single family home sale. But this thing is already built out, and we purchased it hoping we would get 4 units since it was already built out and not having to do much work. And now we're left with 3 units, and we're hoping that we're just able to at least get that. Because to go and gut everything and rip it all out, that's not going to happen. This thing will just stay abandoned, and it'll probably go back to foreclosure.
Okay. Do we have any other callers?
Let me see. There are no other callers, and I don't see any raised hands or anything in the chat.
Who's speaking?
Sorry, I think that was from the applicant's end. I just muted him.
Oh.
So yeah, no raised hands, nothing in chat, and no more callers.
All right. All right. No, if there are no further questions on the board, Mr. Dolphin, is there anything else you'd like to add at this point?
Just that over the years we've always had a great relationship with with zoning hearings, and we've always delivered, and we've always done what we said we were going to do, and we focus on bringing properties back to Baltimore, and we love the city, and I've been here a long time, and just it'll be a waste to see this project just keep staying vacant when it's been vacant for the last, you could see on the records, almost 20 years. So I don't think 1 unit, I know it's a little bit, it's an 8% over the standard variance that usually y'all can grant. So it's 33% variance, but as you know, they're pretty large properties in terms of, the structure wise, building wise, they're pretty big.
Do you live in the area?
Yeah, I actually live 10 minutes away from there. Yeah.
Okay. If there's nothing else on this one, we'll conclude this particular matter. Move on to the final case on the docket. All right. Calling case number 2020-159, 1847 Druid Hill Avenue. Applicant is Bashar Hijazi, and this is a request to use the premises as 3 dwelling units. I'll ask for staff and/or planning reports.
So there was a letter in opposition, states, I'm writing to express my concern about allowing contractors and investors to continue to overburden our community by increasing the amount of people living in one property. As a community, we are already down to 30% home ownership that does not have the resources to continue to take on these types of burdens. It may make sense from a business perspective, but it does not work for helping to build stable communities. 70% home ownership would be a much better number to work towards.
Who is that from?
It's from Mr. Edwards, who lives in the neighborhood, it seems like. And I think is part of the Druid Hill Ave Homeowners Association.
Okay, thanks.
Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this property does not have sufficient lot area and does require a lot area variance of approximately 11% in order for the applicant's request to be approved. The property was last authorized for use as a multifamily dwelling with 3 dwelling units, but it has been vacant for an extended period of time. And therefore, it appears in the records of the city because of the operation of the previous zoning code, which returned any extended vacancy building to single-family dwelling status. That is what happened here. And therefore, the applicant is requesting the basic reestablishment of that. The multifamily dwellings would require off-street parking spaces to be provided, but none can be provided on this property. And therefore, it would be necessary to have an off-street parking variance if this was to be approved. Given these facts, that this has been an extended vacancy and a lack of any specific community concerns about multifamily use of this property being reestablished, the Department of Planning has no objection to the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Do we have Mr. Hijazi on?
Yes, and he is unmuted now.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Hijazi.
Yeah, how you doing? Good afternoon, everybody. So, yeah, I purchased this the property about 4 months ago, and it is designed completely for 3 units apartments. It's completely finished with everything when I purchased it. And the good things about the location, it's a corner lot location, which is basically it's on Robert Street and Druid Hill, which is complete open on the left side of the building, and it has also the front side. In the meantime, I own also 1845 Druid Hill, which is a single family, a dwelling beside the building. So all this corner is basically belong to me over here, and then from a property wise, and there's the whole corner is empty. There's nobody. There's basically the whole street is Robert Street and Druid Hill. That corner is completely empty with regarding the parking.
All right. Let's see here. Okay, any questions from the board?
No.
No questions.
I just want to add one thing here. So the property has 2 entrances. One unit has its own entrance and 2 units has the second entrance. So 1 unit is at the corner lot and the other 2 units on the Druid Hill. And that gives it more flexibility because it has 2 entrances for the building. 1 unit, it looks like separate by itself. It's in the corner, and the other 2 units has one entrance. And beside the 1845 Druid Hill, which is a single unit dwelling, which is I own as well.
Okay. Callers.
There's no more callers, and I do not see any raised hands.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hijazi, thank you. Then there'll be no questions from the board. I think we've concluded that presentation. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And that concludes the docket for today, and we'll proceed to the deliberations section of the meeting.